Well, I'll tell you, it sounds like you've definitely given this a lot of thought, and I know you for a number of years now, and I am fully convinced that you can create what it is we're speaking of today. And for those of you listening, Jerry's got a book, Free Energy 101. You can find it at freenergy101.webs.com. For those of you who are serious and want to see change, you can send your donations there. And for you investors, Richard Branson, if you're listening, and others who have deep pockets, who really want to see change, please contact Jerry. There's a way to contact Jerry there at freenergy101.webs.com. Continue, Jerry.
Yeah, Steve, I think probably I'm hoping that you're hearing I'm a little hot under the collar today. Does that sound about right?
Yes, and that's why I thought after speaking with you earlier this morning that today would be a good day for you to show the fire and passion and desire to set the world now on fire and to get people to wake up really to what's going on, because it's easy for them to believe the lies. They've been conditioned so long to believe all the lies and accept it. Adolf Hitler said the bigger the lie, the easier it is for people to believe. And I am fully convinced at this point that the truth is harder for them to accept than to be given a bald-faced lie and they'll say, okay. So I commend you today for being fired up and passionate about changing our future.
Well, that is part of my mission. The idea that better technology will create a better world, it may sound like a fanciful fantasy to people out there. I can tell people firsthand, I have lived in a home powered on real quantum-free energy. The feeling I got was that I had reached the future. When I walked away from that facility, that home, it really was a facility, and I rejoined the rest of the world where people have metered electricity. I felt like I had stepped back in time. I had gotten to taste the future. I lived it every single day for a while, and it was incredible to feel what it was like to have unlimited power without paying at the meter. And I can tell you that changes your life. It's just that it's been a long haul for me. I've worked with a number of people attempting to get them to see the light. It's been a challenge, Steve, and I'm really hot under the collar about it. You could say, Steve, I'm just sick and tired of the ignorance all around me and what I call this pathological skepticism, the pathological negativity, which is in nobody's interest, quite honestly, to continue the way they have with their mindset that says these things just are not possible, therefore they must be hoaxes.
Well, it's just based on their perception and their ignorance. The mind is like a parachute, Jerry. It can only work if it's open. So to be closed-minded and not to be able to at least entertain the thought as a possibility, as a viable thing that can happen, is really utterly, just blind ignorance.
Well, let's continue with a little bit more of the gravity and different things here because I'm passionate about these topics. So the gravity thing for people listening is a combination of many fields and forces and mechanical activities. What people are hearing me say is associates of mine built a mechanical device that overcame what we call gravity. Again, I'm on the record. I'm sticking my neck out here. Gravity as a fundamental force does not exist. It is one of the greatest scientific lies of our day, just like the flat earth was one of the greatest scientific lies of another day. And once again, we, the people of Earth, are straddled with a lie that is keeping us from progressing. Imagine little Johnny or little Susie simply going out to the garage, each and every one of you. I'm bringing it home to each and every one of you. Johnny or Susie going out, rolling his bicycle out of the garage, pedaling, and up he goes into the air with all the other kids in the neighborhood, having the life and time that we should all be enjoying, where it brings a lot of joy to us. No more pollution, no more congestion on our highways, on our streets. The lifestyle we have today, based on the technology we have today, is killing us. How many of you like sitting out there? How many of you listening like sitting in your cars in that traffic jam, choking, breathing each other's smoke from your cars, so forth and so on? If that's the kind of lifestyle you all think that we want to continue to propagate, continue to have, continue to live, then you know what? You all belong in a different planet than I do. This is just crazy. Your political leaders, your scientists are offering you nothing better, not one thing. The only thing you can count on from your political powers and your scientific powers is that they will continue to enslave you to the gas pump. They will continue to enslave you to your taxes, because without your taxes, my goodness, you can't pay for those roads that always need repair, and pay for your local politician's mansion so he can have a beautiful lifestyle while you continue to be his or her slave. If all of you are hearing something from me, pay attention.
Terry, it sounds like you are ready to make something happen in a major way. What do we need to do to help support you to make this happen?
People, of course, have this mindset that we're talking about, where either they lack the understanding that there is something better or that there could be something better. Those that do get the picture, the investors, the people with the money, they need to start putting their money, their investments into the correct information, the correct technologies, with the correct technical teams. I am one of those people that has a more correct technical team, a more correct technology. If we continue to invest in foolish, obsolete rockets, the future of the world is dim at best, Steve. I've given people one type of technology, inertial propulsion, that has been built and tested that would make the world a better place, Steve. There are groups of people ready to do that need the proper funding and the proper support. Another type of anti-gravity technology, and we're using the term anti-gravity loosely, is a field propulsion device that uses, again, variations of magnetism and electrostatic fields to get us into orbit, again, in a practical, realistic way as well. So there's several ways to go there, Steve. The idea is people need to support the more correct, the better technologies that are going to get them somewhere. I just cannot understand how people think or feel that rockets are going to get them anywhere. It's just an old, obsolete idea.
Well, is a big part of it. People believe what they've been told, and a lot of people haven't gone through the sciences, don't have the mathematical knowledge behind them, and pretty much are naive and believe someone just because they're tenured or just because they have a degree.
Well, I'm beginning to think, Steve, that the type of people that need the help might be a rock star who realizes in his heart there's a better way. Perhaps the rock star doesn't have a lot of science and quite honestly doesn't need any, because if somebody cannot hear from me that gravity is based upon the difference of density, where a rock sinks in water because the rock is more dense than the water, and then that person realized that, my goodness, he's actually hearing the truth of the situation for a change, as opposed to a lot of this mystical, magical hand-waving that scientists do with strange equations that, quite honestly, don't even sound truthful on the surface. My goodness, the mass of the sun attracts the mass of the earth. How could anybody have ever bought that lie when, in fact, it has to do with magnetic fields, electrostatic fields, a form of magnetism that is rarely understood, called the vertical component of magnetism. The idea that the sun literally pushes away from the earth with its radiation fields, and then the magnetism effect pulls back, so you have two forces, Steve, two forces, fundamental forces in cosmology. rather than any mystical, strange thing. These two actual forces tend to counterbalance each other, one pushing, one pulling, so that you get a net orbital difference. What causes the variations in the orbits, like the moon having a smaller orbit and a larger orbit, is the fact that there's different amount of lights and radiations that come off of the moon and the earth that interact, that pushes them farther or closer apart. So once again, I'm not resorting at any point ever to the mass of the moon attracting the mass of the earth, which is an absolutely ridiculous premise propagated by Newton to the folly of all of mankind.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because people read it, and because it's written and the ink is dry, they think that it's true. And obviously, you've given us all today who are here listening a lot to question.
Well, that is one of the things I say in my book. I say question all things. I have what's called 10 principles in the book, Steve. Each chapter ends on a principle. In chapter 1, I make a statement, Steve. I say, to get different results, do something different. So if you want to travel in space, Bezos, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, continuing to travel in space on rockets is going to get you just about nowhere. You might want to consider taking a risk. I challenge these people to take a risk. Throw a little resources my way and see if, in fact, we cannot, or we can show you a better way. I say we can. You say we can. Gee, maybe they should take me up on my offer and see if I can actually do it.
Well, you know, again, I want to right now, I'll pitch your book again, Free Energy 101. It's at freeenergy101.webs.com for anyone from 6 to 60, from rich to poor, no matter where you are in life. Please read this book. You'll understand where we're heading in the future, and we can change that all by just being open-minded and realize there are people out there, such as Jerry, who have answers to these troubling questions that we've got going forward.
Well, Steve, that's certainly right. Science has never properly explained gravity. I've done more today to explain the true nature of gravity to people than, as far as I know, all the scientists that have ever come along. To the best of my knowledge, there are a few people out there like me who know the types of thing that I am saying. One gentleman did a new gravity test. This character, Galileo, Steve, dropped something from the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and that was supposed to be the final straw in determining what gravity was. And again, it was a case of misinterpretation of the limited facts. Another gentleman, during, I believe, the 80s or 90s, got a longer tower, Steve. In fact, his tower was 2 miles long, and he dropped the same two objects. And guess what happened, Steve?
You tell me.
Well, according to all the brilliant scientists of the world and Galileo, the two objects hit the ground at the same time. And there you go. That explains gravity to the T, according to all the brilliant minds of the world. Well, according to this other fellow, not me, I did not do the 2-mile drop experiment. I wished I had. But according to him, the man who did that, the two objects did not, in fact, hit the ground at the same time, Steve. Perhaps we should all redo that experiment and prove to ourselves that gravity really is something different than we all have been led to believe. And again, this test has been suppressed and kept out of the media to the best of my knowledge, Steve.